Ahoy! The Season 2 patch just dropped and there are tons of ways to make very easy gold at the moment, so I want to talk about those a little bit today. It is mostly too late to make buy orders at this point. Some may still work, but generally you're better off just farming stuff now and selling it. But for that there are multiple very nice ways. So in this video we'll mainly focus on the farming side of things. Now, a little problem with videos like this is that the moment they get posted, this can sometimes affect the market a lot and the farm gets worth less overall. If you want to skip the queue and get tips like this early, then consider supporting me on Patreon, where I always post tips like this a little earlier so you have a few days to farm things in peace. Thanks to all of my patrons who support me there. That said, in this particular case, I don't think the timing is as much of an issue. I will be releasing a sandworm guide soon, and I think that will help a lot of people try the sandworm that hadn't tried it before, and some people may need to re-gear. So I think over time there will still be more demand for the resources for the sandworm, with more and more casual players trying it. Let's first have a bit of a look at the situation on the trading post as of today, which changes day by day and is different depending on the server. But the first thing that we can see here is acid tinctures still going for 250, sometimes they go up to more than 300, they used to go for around 500. So the resources required for that are very farmable. First of all, you have the tier 5 medicinal reagents, that is the live moth ice. These are gone up in price pretty high on my server at least. So that's something you can just kind of keep in mind. Maybe you have some on spare. Again, something that you would have been better off just buying earlier. Earth reagents, whatever, you can use a lot of different ones, but the farmable stuff is down here. First we have the Aloe Gel, which is going for 4 gold on my server at the moment. Very easy farm. The second one is the cactus flesh, which is going for 2.5 at the moment, which I think is a bit too low for it to be worth it, but this can very easily go up again, even though there's orders of thousands here. These are used very quickly when crafting, especially the acid tinctures. They need both 25 aloe and 25 cactus flesh, so yeah, you go through them very fast. Sulfur chunk is the last one here that we need for this recipe. Currently at 8 gold, was up at 15 in between. Also very easy to farm in the right spot if you are running chitin padding for it, otherwise it's probably pretty annoying now. But this is also something that you don't need as much of, you need 3 per recipe, so I don't think the demand will be quite as high in comparison. Then we have the chitin padding, which is still going for pretty ridiculous prices, to be honest. And this is something that will be needed for the boss. I know some people think, okay, everyone is just running full Jaspers now, full strike, but that's not the case for everyone. If you want to optimize your run, some people will need chitin padding still, and these are still fairly expensive. Again, you see the reagents here, you have aloe gel, you have cactus flesh, then you also have runic leather and phoenix weave, so these are worth crafting more at the moment. They're also used for all of the gear that people have been crafting, so they have gone up in price too. And then you have the chitin plate. Chitin plate, still very expensive for what it is in terms of resources, and also fairly easy to get the stuff for it. People are just lazy to do so, or maybe don't have the crafting skills required. This is leather working. So you need layered leather. Don't need to explain how to get that. And you need chitin parts. And chitin parts are going for 450 each, even though scorpions are incredibly easy to farm. But what you can also see is that having the trade skills to upgrade things usually results in higher profits here, especially with the chitin padding. The price goes up a lot if you just get the full thing instead of the parts, because people just want to quickly grab whatever they need for the raid. Same with the acid tincture, they don't have time to go through all the crafting steps, so usually if you can upgrade it, it is worth it. Infused beast coatings are still surprisingly cheap on my server, to be honest, but I would imagine that on some other servers they've already gone up. These are getting burned if you are going for more serious attempts, for speedrun attempts, because you have to reset the instance every time and you need to use a new coating every time you do that. So these will get much higher in demand later, I think. On the other hand, Beast Ward Potion is technically very overpriced at the moment, because as of now, this has no use in the Sandworm raid, or almost no use, because it overrides various buffs that you get in the fight, which is a big problem for this, so it's really not advisable to use it, and the price here is probably very inflated, so if you still have any of these, get rid of them before everyone knows they're not good. Powerful incense entirely hinges on the price of ironwood planks, can be worth it or can be not worth it. This is something you will need a fair bit of for the raid, but the problem is that I think people are using it for leveling furnishing as well, so overall the price won't go much higher. So you can see it's at 20 gold and ironwood planks are at 14 right now. Sometimes ironwood planks are even higher than incense, so best not to invest not too much into this compared to the other things. Crafting mats, especially for dex weapons, are insanely high because dex weapons are used a lot in the fight, and dex gear in general. So rough leather beaded straps just went up by a solid 50 on my server and went up to 200 in between, so it's already going down a bit. Something else to make some very good gold with are weapons, if you can craft them either with engineering or with weaponsmithing. For example, you can see if I go for Beastbane Vicious Spears with a single attribute above 590, there's 2 here for very cheap and everything else is fairly expensive. And that's already the more saturated one. On the other hand, if we look at bows, then you can see there's actually just one for 100,000 on my market right now. People keep crafting them, and for some reason some are not selling them afterwards, even though you can make some pretty good extra gold with that. If I, for example, was looking for a blunderbuss, the first one here would be an int one for 4,000. Not a lot on this market either. So yeah, many weapons that are used in the fight that are not saturated in terms of sales on the market. And I'm going to show you my sell orders from the last days here, and you'll see why I'm talking about this. So as you can see, first of all, I sold some Aloe Gel for a pretty good price. That was more of a test because I'm using most of mine myself. We have the chitin parts, which we went for a ridiculous price for a moment because no one wanted to farm them, but still going for a good price considering how easy they are to farm. A chitin plate as well. We have Orichalcum Spear Charm that I had stocked up a bit, and we have Vial of Wolf Essence, Beast Ward, that obviously goes for a very good price as well. And then down here we have chitin padding, easily sold for almost 1,000 gold each. Some pristine bear claws that I had spare, and then here we have the spears. For example, I sold Ironwood spears with Vicious Beastbane, multiple for 6,000. I got some legendaries that were not particularly good. I don't know why anyone bought a Plague Crit one, which really has no impact in this, for 70k, but they did. And then had another one with Keenly Fortified, which you also don't really need, but it's maybe a nice little bonus for 20k. So lots and lots of stuff that sells. Trophies sell too. Really, anything that is somehow related to the raid will go on the market. And that brings us to the resources that we're after, which I will show you on eternummap.gg. I will leave a link down in the description as well. So the first resource that we're after is Aloe Gel. Some of the background footage that you'll see in this video is me farming exactly that. And there are multiple spots to do that very easily. Now, if you want to find that in terms of the nodes, you have to actually search for hemp, because it's currently listed under hemp. That will be fixed soon, very likely, so it will be labeled as Aloe Gel and Aloe Vera Succulents instead. They are especially up here. There's a shrine here in this area close to the new zone. There's way more here than this would indicate. The entire area is just drowning in them pretty much, and you can just loop that area over and over and get hundreds and hundreds of Aloe Gel very quickly. The zone a little bit further down here near the acid pools is also very saturated. A lot of Aloe Gel all over here. It's basically this brown area with this kind of slightly greenish tone that has a lot of it. And then you have another area up here that I haven't farmed, but that also seems to have a decent amount, though the top left one, in my opinion, is the best one. You could easily have 3-4 people farming there and it would still be enough for everyone. There's another location in the southeast of Brimstone that also has quite a few, though not quite as many, but you can kind of just go along here. And then there are also some extra ones towards the top end. So yeah, there are plenty of spots to farm, but not all are equally efficient. For example, the one around Scorpio is just not quite as saturated as the ones especially in the northwest. For scorpions, you have a filter to search for scorpions specifically, and this will show you some of the locations, though I would say they are not quite complete. So you have some scorpions down here that you don't want to farm either because they are not giving you the chitin parts that you want, unless you are farming other resources. But especially in the starting area down here, there are tons more scorpions than this visually indicates. So basically, this place where you do the quest has an entire spawn point of here that's just scorpions everywhere that you can just very easily farm for parts. And then there's a scorpion cave here as well that you can farm. So plenty of places around here where you can very easily get a lot of chitin parts if you want to make full chitin paddings yourself. There's another area up here, but it's not quite as farmable. You can also technically farm the small scorpions that spawn at Scorpio, I think, but I think the speed is also slower in comparison. So I would probably stick to this area if you want to have the most farming efficiency when it comes to scorpions, as far as I'm aware anyways. I would not recommend specifically farming cactus, because I think it's inefficient, because you just don't get enough from most of the plants, and it feels slow compared to farming aloe, and it's usually cheaper than aloe. So you can do that. There are areas down here, there's an area up here, and some places here that have a fair amount of cacti, and obviously all throughout Brimstone in general you have some cacti here and there, but I don't think it is the most efficient resource to farm. I don't think it's worth it most of the time compared to the other ones. So check the prices on your server to see if that's something you want to do. If you go down to this area here, this actually has a fair few cacti as well that are not displayed here. So you can kind of farm aloe, cacti, and some scorpions at the same time. So you gotta have a bit of a 3 birds, 1 stone situation. By the way, I haven't done this because I expect the farm to be fairly contested, but if you want to farm live moth eyes, you can kind of make your way through Chitin Mountain. These are very often claimed by people that do other routes though. And you have a massive area here in Eden Grove, but again, I would expect that on most servers this is fairly contested. If you're farming for full acid tinctures and chitin paddings, it could be worth waiting to sell until next weekend. Obviously, this is a bit of a risk that you're taking because prices are generally high at the moment, but it is possible that a lot of people will have the time to grind more on the weekend. A lot of the raid groups have more time to get together on the weekend, and then they will also need more resources, which is especially true for the acid tinctures. Some of them will probably stock up throughout the week already, but it could be a good time to make some extra profits. Overall, I hope these tips help you on your trading as well as farming adventures, and you can get a nice little profit out of it. Again, if you want these tips early, consider supporting me on Patreon. In the next days, we'll talk about some changes as well as the upcoming weapon. We have some new info about that. So if you're interested in that, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you're notified. Thank you for watching, and thanks to my patrons for supporting this video. SLOTH out.